Hey everybody, Dr. Dave Marquis here, and I had some things that I wanted to share with you that really surprised me when I first heard it, and so I had to do a little bit of research to see if what I was hearing was accurate, and it was, and I think that it would be useful for everybody to know because it's something that so many people do, and they might be doing it under the auspices of, this is good for me, and you'll be very surprised to find out that it might not be that great for you. It has to do with some of the things that we consume dietarily, both in restaurants and when we get our smoothies. And sometimes people are doing it in their own kitchen because, again, they think that it's going to be really good for them. So there's a variety of plants that are hyperaccumulators of heavy metals. And one of the plants that does one of the most concentrated accumulations is kale. And when I heard that, I thought, wow, that is really interesting because I've done kale chips, I've put kale in smoothies, I've eaten kale in just about any which way you can imagine, thinking that, okay, I'm getting dense greens, and in that process, that's providing me a rich supply of all of my B complex, iron, and other trace minerals. And I thought, well, why not get it from these sources? That works for the cattle and everything else around that is animal kingdom. They'll eat these things. Well, it turns out that many of these plants are there not only to provide us some nutrients, but to clean up the soil. And many of the cruciferi do that as well. So broccoli does that, cauliflower does that. But some of these super green leafies like kale, they're high on that list for hyperaccumulators. And ironically, when you look at the animal kingdom, take cows for example, because many people are shooting for organic kale and they want to make sure that they get the very best thing. Well, they're fertilizing that kale with the byproducts of cattle. So they're taking their stool and they're putting it out there as manure. Well, cow stomachs have amazing capacity to pull heavy metals out and to concentrate it into their stool. So then if they happen to be eating in a field where there happen to be some of these things in the heavy metal kingdom, because they're naturally occurring, their stomach is going to concentrate that down. We take that stool, we spread it out over into a field where we're going to grow kale, and that kale then pulls all of that in concentrate out of the soil and leaves it beautifully in the leaves. And then we eat the concentrated form. So what metals might we experience when we're consuming this stuff? Well, one of the worst is called thallium. And thallium is a heavy metal that presents with the following symptoms. It creates heart arrhythmias, it creates fatigue, it impacts our mitochondria, which are our energy producing cells, which is one of the reasons why it leads to fatigue. But here's one for all you ladies out there, because I'm way past this point. It causes hair loss. And it's become actually a common cause of hair loss in females. And that was like, wow, mind-blowing. Because many ladies are going to get their smoothies or their drinks, and they're doing that because they're hoping to get, all of their trace minerals. Well, they're getting a lot of those, but they're also getting some surprise stowaways that came along with that kale in the form of thallium. So the takeaway from this is it's not all bad to get your greens. Matter of fact, I would still encourage that, but you need to know that if you're sourcing something like that over and over and over again, you better be doing some chelating as well and to mitigate that exposure. So variety is the spice of life, and that goes for everything that we consume. Know that when you're getting concentrates of a certain vegetable group like kale, and you're using that over and over again, the probability of you having heavy metal exposure is modestly high. So you might even test yourself. And so there's a variety of blood, stool, urine, and even hair analysis that can look to see what your body stores are of some of these heavy metals. And you might be surprised to find that you have some thallium and maybe some cadmium that are showing up as a result of the things that you're consuming. If that's the case, know that there's tools that you can use to pull that out. But also realize that if you're doing these things in the desire to be well and you're not feeling well, you might take pause and recognize that, well, you know what, maybe what I'm putting in is having a deleterious effect on my health. So I hope that's a helpful message for you. I don't want to scare anybody. I don't want you to make you think that vegetables are bad, because they're not. But recognize that if we overdo any one thing, it can have a negative result on our overall well-being.